Board. I'm John Ostman, Chair. I'm joined today by our Vice Chair, Debbie Oakes, our Clerk, Mariah Lestage, Lynn Eicholt on Zoom, Mary Wright, and Francesca Galazzi. Also with us today are George Meservey, the Director of Planning and Community Development, and Karen Sharpless, our Administrative Assistant. This meeting today is a basically one-item agenda meeting, and it's a joint meeting with members of the Select Board. But before we get to that, we'll take any public comment. I don't see anyone in the room, but does anyone have their hands up online?
No hands raised.
Okay, thank you very much. George, any communications?
None since your agenda was posted.
Okay, thank you very much. So that we get to the agenda item of the day, which is the discussion of the Orleans Comprehensive Plan with members of the Select Board. Some members can't be here today, and we are delayed a month from when we were going to have our meeting because of the blizzard, and so that's delayed us a little bit. So anyway, I wanted to open the meeting, this section of the meeting with George, if you would present the summary slides of the comprehensive plan, and we'll go from there.
Great. So I do want to point out, and we can keep this fairly informal. I've done this presentation once before, but thank you very much for taking the time to be here. I think this is an important plan. I think the history of the way Orleans has planned over the last 20 years tells you that this is an important plan, because we have in the past listed all the things, all the issue areas, all the major challenges that we need to address, and the town has methodically and deliberately gone after them. We haven't solved all the issues of the day for Orleans, but having a comprehensive plan that is ground up from your boards and committees and your fellow residents really puts you in a position to do what the town needs to do. So with that, I've got about 15 slides I just want to run through with you. If you could bear with me, I think we can have a good discussion about this afterwards. These are the areas, oops, excuse me. I got some weird thing going on with this computer today.
Do you want the lights off in the back, George?
Yeah,
Higher
that might
contrast.
help. So these are the areas we're going to touch on today. We're going to talk about the purpose of a long-range plan, the process used to bring the opinions together, the way the plan is structured, the community challenges and the major themes of the plan. We'll spend some time on that. And I'll give you some information on the various sections, but certainly not a detailed recitation of them. And finally, we'll talk about the last step to complete the plan and begin to use it. So first, let's go over the purpose of a comprehensive plan. First, it is the long-term vision for the community that anticipates change as best we can and guides action in a manner consistent with what the town needs. It is a supporting framework and rationale for the adoption of zoning and other bylaws that are needed to enact town goals. It is both aspirational and pragmatic. It's the roadmap for moving from the vision of the community to the reality. And last all, it is a community-informed guide for the public and for decision makers. So the planning board was responsible for developing this plan. They provided the direction, the guidance, and the judgment throughout the process. A working group was assembled of town staff and 2 planning board members, and we began the process by conducting public workshops. They were held in different locations, one day and one evening. We had 150 residents attend these 2 workshops, and they interacted on a community vision. A townwide survey was issued. A postcard was sent out to every household in Orleans. The response was very good. We got 16% of the year-round households in Orleans responded to the survey. So we took this critical data, and it was used as the starting point for updating town goals. The key boards and committees were consulted on 3 different occasions. First, we asked them to identify the goals in the 2006 plan, what was obsolete, what was completed, what needed to be reworked, and what is new. And then we asked them to comment on the initial drafts of the new goals that the planning board had sort of distilled and the objectives and actions. And then we met a third time with each of these boards. And this is a significant amount of working with a lot of people. to go over the draft goals and the actions before we moved on to a full draft of the plan. A lot of input. I guess that's the message there. So the 2025 plan, we call it Orleans 2050. It seems to have a good ring to it. It will be different from the 2006 plan. It follows the Cape Cod Commission guidelines and is intended to lean more on bulleted goals and actions than text descriptions of the community. By doing this, we've trimmed about 100 pages off the plan since the previous plan while adding 3 new sections. The plan is action-oriented, as in what actions does the town need to take to ensure a healthy future. And we are still working on having performance measures to demonstrate progress on the many goals here. So I'm going to just take a few minutes to brief you on the contents of the plan. This is a high-level overview, of course. And let's start with 2 general statements, the vision statement and the growth management policy. Some of you will recall that series of visioning workshops in 2023, as well as the townwide survey. The outcome was a vision for the community. And this is the aspiration of what we collectively hope Orleans will be in the future. This is just a summary of it, but it is that the vision for Orleans is a balanced, diverse, and thriving community where the town's unique character flourishes with a commitment to strategic goals and environmental stewardship. Central to this vision is a commitment to enhancing the quality of life in the town. So that is the vision statement. And we also have a corresponding growth management policy. The policy is to guide and direct growth toward areas of the town that have appropriate supporting infrastructure and to advance community elements, including economic centers, affordable and attainable housing, coastal resiliency, a host of other things. This map is the growth management policy, the future land use map that is in the draft plan. And you can see it shows in the center is the main business activity area for the community. We envision a vibrant, walkable village center with all the goods and services. There are 2 lesser economic areas, sort of neighborhood centers in South Orleans and East Orleans. There is an open space freshwater resource protection area. We all know the 500-acre watershed on the west side of the town, west of Route 28. In the center of the map is the industrial district, our 100-acre district in which certain service businesses can grow and thrive. And as you can see from this map, the green areas are areas that are already protected as open space, and those are essential to Orleans' long-term future. So as we've listened to the residents and discussed the future of the town, some real challenges have come up to the forefront. This is what we heard. Protection of the natural environment and its ecology is primary in the minds of many residents. Affordability of the community for all residents is a necessity, and we're a long way from that. There is a crucial need for new commercial investment in a more year-round based economy. The overall population and the demographics of the community are a concern. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. As to town character, Orleans is a very nice town, and we want to preserve and enhance its best qualities while encouraging efforts toward a bright future. And there is also a need to address energy issues as responding to a changing climate. So all this we do all this planning on a peninsula surrounded by water, drinking from a sole source aquifer in a seasonal community. Because of our setting and some of the physical limits, there are physical limits to growth, and there are some practical limits based on resources, transportation, infrastructure, et cetera. So that's just the reality. So throughout the plan development, the planning board has been mindful of the big picture issues and hopes to capture the most important ones in this plan. So the next couple of slides match up the challenges the town faces with the issue areas that are addressed in the plan. The areas of ecological preservation, this area is broad. Orleans needs to address nitrogen management, phosphorus management for fresh waters. We need to work to treat stormwater effectively to meet our MS4 permit. The control of invasive species is needed. It's a section that we address. And we want to work to prevent critical habitat loss as the town continues to develop. Under housing and affordability, I think we've said a lot about this challenge in public. It affects residents, families. It has an impact on the local economy. Today, people who earn a living here have limited choices. The housing is very high cost. There's an overall lack of supply, both for ownership and for rental housing. These are compounded by the pressures of a seasonal community. And as you all know, we will be using the Seasonal Communities Act to respond in a variety of ways for the town. A new area of need in the community is to respond to our energy needs and to become more resilient to climate conditions that have come to the forefront. We are challenged by the need for better energy resources beyond fossil fuels, sea level rise, storms, and other indicators of a changing climate, erosion of shorelines, and on basically all sides. It's really not a side of Orleans that's not surrounded by water, I guess maybe the Brewster Line. We have areas that are prone to frequent flooding, and through all that, as we all know, the emergency needs of the community must be met under a variety of conditions. The challenges for the local economy include a limited customer base out here on the peninsula, the seasonality of population and the corresponding level of business support, the difficulties in hiring and retaining employees, and there's an issue with the quality of existing commercial space that is not always aligned with contemporary business requirements. And finally, there are economic transitions that are outside the control of the community, including the changing nature of retail and a move toward a host of services obtainable online. Next is population and its composition, which is a concern. The makeup of the community has shifted significantly in the past decade. We've documented a loss of working age in young families, corresponding increase in the number of people over age 65. These demographic changes affect specific needs for services, and both to the people who live here and to the demographic cohorts we're trying to attract or rebalance. So long term, there is a need to put policies in place that will rebalance the community in its age cohorts for the long-term vitality of the community. And the last challenge area is a little more difficult to define, but very important to residents. Town character, quality of life. Residents treasure the unique aspects of the town. It still has a sense of place, and we need to build upon and enhance that as the community develops. We have an historical context in Orleans that is important. We need to take steps to protect that community heritage. And the challenges to quality of life include the necessary components to serve the mobility needs of the population, and the town services should always respond to the specific needs of the community and the population. And I think there's been a tremendous progress in that in the last 2 or 3 years on what are the actual needs, let's respond to them. So the community faces many challenges for the future, and we've developed goals for each plan section. The goals can be summarized by some major themes: protect the natural environment, support a diversity of housing options, build a healthy year-round economy, be strategic with our infrastructure investments, transition to clean energy sources. We need to also improve the ability to get around town, and we would like to have a town with sufficient recreation, social, and cultural opportunities. The built environment should be attractive and should improve the visual qualities of the town. And in all things, we need to respond in a fiscally responsible manner. So this overall plan is organized according to 3 major systems per the Cape Cod Commission directive. The first is the natural environment. That is groundwater, surface water, wetland, wildlife, open space. The second is the social or the community systems of the town: the economy, housing, community services, history and heritage, arts and culture, and governance. And then there's the third, the built environment. This is community design and public infrastructure, transportation systems, energy and climate, and resiliency. So within each of those, I think there are 17 issue areas. You will find, if I click it right, you'll find the current status of that particular issue, what the town has done recently, a list of a summary of the key issues to be addressed, and most importantly, the goals and the objectives and the specific actions with priorities, relative priorities, and identification of the resources needed to do those things. So of the 3 systems, here are the plan sections associated with the natural systems. The goals are to protect groundwater, which is our drinking water, to maintain high-quality lakes and ponds, to protect or restore natural values and functions of marine waters, and the town has made significant progress in that regard. Wetlands and other natural communities are important resources to be protected, and open space and conservation of land is one excellent way to protect those resources. Under community systems, there are 6 sections. The goals are to sustain the local economy and to have a broad range of year-round employment opportunities. In the area of housing, the goal is a diverse range of housing choices. Vital community services and necessary facilities are identified in the plan, and they need to be efficient and cost-effective. In the area of history and heritage, important historic and cultural features of the town should be preserved. Arts and culture is an element of the town that should not be overlooked. The goal here is to have a variety of cultural activities available for residents. And there's a new section in this plan that addresses local government. It's a short section, it's a brief statement, but the goal here is to provide for the needs of today while protecting the assets and resources that we have for the future. The third of the 3 areas is built systems. The goal of the section is that Orleans would be a model of good design. Key infrastructure needs to be developed and maintained. The transportation network must respond to the travel needs of all users, whether by vehicle, bicycle, or walking. And we have 2 new sections of the plan that were required by the Cape Cod Commission. The goal of the energy and climate mitigation section is to have a future energy infrastructure that is clean, efficient, and resilient. And the climate resiliency is the area of the plan that acknowledges documented change in sea level rise and climate. The goal here is to take action to minimize suffering and loss of life and loss of property from storms, flooding, and other events so that the community is made more resilient to those occurrences in the town in the future. Winding down here, this is the action plan and how it's set up. I know it's too small to read. I just wanted to make a couple points on it. The action plan contains all the actions, the anticipated timing of each action, the resources required, that is from staff only on up to actual capital direct costs, and the lead responsible agency to shepherd each action. We did this with the 2006 plan as well, assigned a lead responsible agency, and it worked pretty well. About 80% of the plan actions were addressed over a 20-year period. And as a note, the town charter requires a comprehensive plan to be used in the development of the operating and capital budgets. This check-in was documented in the past with an annual report from the planning board of actions completed in the past and actions planned for the future. And I thought it was pretty effective. So the next steps here, after this review, we hope that the Board of Selectmen will put this on the town meeting warrant. We have some final graphic edits that are being made, and we are actually trying to incorporate the recently approved branding schemes right into the plan. So this is the first plan of the town that comes out that's got all the new graphics. If the town meeting agrees to adopt the plan, it will be forwarded to the Cape Cod Commission for certification, and then we will start implementing. I just added this one section for you, because I went through your 5 pages of goals to just do a check of our current thinking. And so we compared the comprehensive plan against the select board goals. And many of the goals were operational in nature, things like the review of multi-member boards, enhancing performance process, reviewing the charter. Those are not in here. But the comp plan addresses actions that are different from operational goals. And the actions of the select board goals, we found there was real close alignment with the comprehensive goals. So there's this page, there's another page. On the left are the select board goals, and on the right are the comprehensive plan references. I could have given you the page references, but I just wanted to just give you some comfort that we have looked at those, and that was part of the intake process here. And lastly, the select board goals also mentioned taking action on several plans or initiatives. And on these, we also saw close alignment. Not perfect, but close alignment. Some of the things that the select board goals contained were shorter term in nature and didn't belong in the comp plan. So that is the presentation, and I hope the planning board has been at this for a long time. I hope the plan is sufficiently complete and robust for the community to go forward. Thanks.
George, thank you very much. this point, we'll take comments from the Select Board members. Any sort of input you'd like to give us at this point?
You know I have all kinds of input. Would you like to go first?
It's up to you.
Why don't you go first?
Okay. Do you want me to read what I had sent you guys, or should I just,
Sure.
is there things on there that you want me to highlight?
If there's anything, Michael, if there's anything you feel you want to highlight, I did not forward it to the board because I just got it.
Oh, yeah, right. of course.
But, you know, if there were a few things I think are probably worth mentioning to the board. We
I can go through it quickly, and we
Yeah,
can
sure.
then you could forward it too. I didn't want to forward it to the whole board, but I did read the whole plan. It is excellent, so well done, all of you. That is, I remember the vision meetings in 2023 at the senior center, and it's been a lot of work since then, and I love the new format. I think it's very understandable, very readable. I would suggest everybody reads this once it gets adopted. What I enjoyed about it, it's not just about the future, it's got a great history of Orleans in it. It talks a lot about the current day. I mean, if you really break it down, it's probably only 50% of it is really about the history and what's happened currently in the last few years. And then maybe 50% is the future, which is great. So I learned a lot and appreciate it. Some of the, just housekeeping, some comments were, the population, I would check that number on page 42. From the census, I got 6,280. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a couple of references to town population, and there are a couple different numbers on town
Yeah,
population.
yeah.
And I bet it's different today than it was yesterday. But I think we should probably just go with the town clerk's number as reported in the town report 2025 that will come out.
And I think that's the 6,280. But
That is a number, we'll carry that number forward.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever you,
I think the point about that is that no matter what number we choose, because it will be wrong,
yes.
is be consistent throughout the report, because I think we mentioned population numbers several times, and whatever it is, whatever we choose, it has to be the same number.
And I would, of course, always, I know you did this, probably entered them from the 2023 numbers or 2024. Now that 2025 has come out, it may be worth looking at that. I know our average median age is now 65, and it was in the report at 63. So we're getting older, and the population is going down a little bit. On page 79, there was just a typo there between the listing of the fertilizer, the home rule petitions of the fertilizer and pesticides. It repeats pesticides twice and doesn't, okay. On page 106, the tourist sector, I was confused about adding up these numbers. They were kind of on, you have such great graphics and boxes in the other sections. On these ones, you kind of just wrote the numbers across, and I just felt like it would be, they're very interesting numbers. The meals tax we get, the second, the short-term rental tax we get, the hotel tax we get, and see how that adds up as a percentage. And the beaches, I think, were in there too. So I would just look at that. On page 127, there was the preschool funding. I think we increased that.
10,000 was the
Is it-
reference.
It's $7,000 regardless of age. If you go to the
That
website
changes.
today.
Good, because it's 5 and 10 in the.
Yeah,
Plan.
and I've made this change, yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you for
so long as that's consistent, and I know that's something, it might, I don't know how you would phrase it, but I think that's something we're gonna consistently look at. At least this board feels like we should be,
Well, we're stretching it out.
Yes.
Not just for preschool.
but even in the future, it may
Right.
increase in
Right.
the age bracket and go lower. I don't know, that's just maybe just my feeling. Page 145, you might want to mention, you mentioned the multi-member bodies and do a lot of discussion. They made the policy we put together, if you want.
Got it, yes.
Page 172 or 3, this is where I understand that aren't going to match in all of the select board goals versus these goals, but some were pulled out and some weren't, and I was just, I have a sweet spot in my heart for 44 Main Street. And I think it's been on our goals for the last 3 years as a select board, almost more than any other project that's there. And we pulled out Gavigan Cottages, which isn't really something in our wheelhouse we've been talking about as an immediate thing, but that's just a suggestion. Because it fits in everything that you guys put in this plan, whether it's the
And I
housing,
think that's
whether it's
mentioned.
the economic development, whether it's the tourism, whether it's the culture. That building would touch on all these things and be right downtown, center, walkable, also have a park outside, so. 173, I think you probably put it in before, but we are currently doing the food composting, not thinking about doing it. We're actually, that's being done now. And I think we're hoping to look to expand things like that, expand composting and recycling. And I think I sent that back when I did the December comments, I think. Pages 197, 201, and 202, you talk about the vulnerabilities in storm and resiliency and that. It's been kind of a topic. We haven't really dug into it, but it's brought up almost every time we have a poll hearing, is electrification infrastructure underground. I know that's not something we're doing now. I know there's a lot of debate ahead of that. But when I'm looking at this plan, I'm looking at it through 2050. And to think we won't be addressing that in some way by 2050, I think is remiss of us. I mean, you were just in a region of the world, you have, say, the Netherlands. 100% of the country is electric underground. Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Germany, huge amounts, percentages, 75% is underground. Probably in 25 years, we'd be kind of crazy thinking we're not going to be moving in that direction, whether we do it now or whenever it takes. Because I guess some of these things, I hear how you want them to be visionary, but then you want to be pragmatic too. And it's hard to think of what we will be doing in 2045 in those kind of projects. But I think electrification underground is going to be something we're going to have to wrestle with and debate as a town.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just interject for 1 second. This is the kind of new objective that I would not feel comfortable unless the board is comfortable with me putting some mention of that, because it was in the previous plan. We explored a very small area of Main Street, from like the Main Street Gourmet to the library, to put wires underground. And it was, the numbers were twice what I thought they were going to be. And they were like $3 million to get started, plus the connections to the individuals. And at that point, it didn't seem like it could ever happen, so it's not in the plan. But, you know, if you, as a board, you want to put that in, we can find a place for that, so it's
You don't need to
captured
put
and
it
not
in. I'm just
lost.
suggesting if we're really putting on our 2050 hats and really thinking about the things around the world that we're going to have to address, which I think this is part of it.
Debbie, you have a
Yeah,
comment?
I just think it's like the elephant in the room. We have resiliency as a goal of it and our infrastructure. Well, what is the biggest thing? It's electrification, and we are so the opposite of resilient. We are cavemen, just past cavemen, literal wires strung from tree to tree. I mean,
The first telephone poles were 1888,
okay,
and we're still
1888,
using that same.
little more recent. But it's like we don't say it. But what else are we, either we say it or we're not actually going to do it unless somebody invents something else.
But they are. They are.
Well, they
doing
might.
Something else. And so that's why it's a complicated issue. And we're not really here to add to your plan, I thought, but just to reflect back what we've gleaned from it. Because, George, I guess you and I are the only ones in the room who lived through previous planning board attempts. There was one from Rock Harbor to Main Street to price out. It comes up cyclically with the planning board to update the cost of doing that. But now there's, with the AI stuff, I was just reading how many states are engaging in the use of storage batteries, so that individual houses become their own electrification plants.
Right.
And we may not need those lines. So we'll see. We don't know what the technology is going to do. But the point is, my colleague, it is an elephant in the room.
It's embedded already in resiliency. We're
could
gonna
think of
have
it
to be
that way, yeah.
looking
And we
at
could make mention of it
different
in
ways that we're gonna
just to round out the
attach it.
plan.
Just as a comment, and we've made this, I think, before, is that the comprehensive plan is not a substitute for town meeting or decision-making of the select board or any other boards and committees. It is a guidance document,
Guideline.
and our consideration of this is certainly, if we go through an analysis again, it's certainly a large capital project, a la sewers. And if we wanted to put in a line under the resiliency end of the document or a line in the capital plan. But the thing is, the capital plan really is just a snapshot of what the CIP is now. It does not one part about the 2050 plan is the capital plan does not go out to 2050. It only goes out for the CIP as we know it today. So it wouldn't not, in this sort of thing, would not be in that 5-year timeframe. So I would say that, because we have one last round of last edits to go, it's possible for us to fit in a comment about that in the resiliency end of the document and whether it's there or not, it doesn't preclude us looking at it at all.
But also the pathways to it, like Orleans becoming its own utility, or Orleans agreeing and negotiating with the current utility about the cost of it, because we also studied how other communities have done it. And against sewer, we weren't willing at the time, the need for sewer was absolutely imperative to bring that kind of cost to the community at the same time that we were building out sewers. So I think to Michael's point, you may want a line about all pathways to, and including new technologies that at 5 years from now, we all may be fluent in, but we don't speak currently.
Right. And I think we have a line at the beginning of the plan itself that says this is not, there's a line about future technologies in here that a lot of this could change based upon new innovations and that sort of thing. But unless there's an objection from the board, I wouldn't mind putting in a line or some sort of statement concerning taking a look at this in the resiliency section.
Glad to fit that in.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I think in particular with people reading this, if anybody does read the whole thing, fingers crossed.
We
No,
do.
No, but I'm just saying, fingers crossed that they would. I think given the just recent storm, I think there would be people being like, so where's the thing? So I think it behooves us to be a little specific about it without, sort of making a big plan that this is what will happen.
Okay, should I?
Please go on.
Okay,
Michael.
I think page 208, the freshwater section, number 4, you added the fertilizer and pesticides, thank you. But I just wanted to make sure it's added to all the water bodies, because of course in estuaries is in the same.
Right.
And you did mention up there the nitrogen and the phosphorus, so. Under wildlife and plant habitat, I don't know if you want to, but avoid using pesticides. I know there's a lot of talk right now about second-generation rodenticides. If that's already legislation right now, it's in 25 years, it's going to be a little bit understood. And then when we talk about, I know you added the native policy, so thank you for adding that. I don't know if we want to say anything about shade trees or trying to protect old-growth trees in our town or anything that. And that was kind of all the little comments I had regarding things that I would suggest looking at. The other one was the stats and metrics. I love those pages. They were awesome. It would be nice to have a chart at the back of this plan that lists all those metrics down, and we either go backwards and try to find the data if we have. I would love to see how those progress every year while you're not redoing this while you're going to do this every 5 years. It would be nice to update those numbers annually when we get them.
So to address that, one part of the plan that's not done yet and doesn't need to be done for town meeting is the piece about our milestones and measures of success. So it's basically a table that'll be, that makes this a living document. It's updatable and all of that, and that's where that belongs.
Perfect.
So I think we can
Yeah.
incorporate that in.
You have identified the metrics you think are important because you put them on the pages. I'm not even suggesting adding any other additional ones, but if you felt they were important enough to put in those individual pages, it would be nice to be able to track.
It's a trend line. It shows where we're going,
Yeah, where we've been and where we're
where
going.
we've been, where we're going.
Really helpful, I think you guys know, and I love data, and it just helps us all make more educated, thoughtful decisions. The other ones I would.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
on that? On that point, the planning board had been keeping care of John Pallender years ago, benchmarks. Would these replace that tool?
If I may, I think they do replace the community indicators that we did for about a 10-year period in there. 'Cause, frankly, some of those the needle doesn't move fast enough that they're meaningful.
Right, and
And we've discovered other things directly related to town challenges that we probably want to measure that are
this
more
seems
applicable.
much more
Yeah.
practical.
Yep.
Great.
One thing you mentioned here, which was great for thing, is the addressing PFASs, but you didn't mention plastics. I don't know if you meant plastics and PFASs, but
Yeah.
I think plastics is gonna be a major concern for the world, if not our town, in the next 25 years. And it could just go with PFAS and plastics, you know, you don't need a whole new section, but I would call that out. The other one is Veterans and Memorial Park, we just renovated it. You did such a great job touching on every other project we have recently done, and I appreciate that, but I don't know if I missed it, but I don't know if it was in there, or it was kind of, maybe we get a picture and a small blurb at one of the sections that you mention all of the most recent projects. And, no, I'd leave it at that. Except for, what was missing was a picture of you guys.
Oh, no.
I think you need to add a picture of you guys, and I wanted to say it before Andrea did.
Oh, no, I didn't think of that one.
We have names in there, and I don't know in the
You
last
got the
3.5
names.
years since we've been working on this, if that subject came up, and it's not going to come up. Okay?
I just think it'd be looking at the 2006 plan, I'd like to see who put that together. I want to see their
The names are
picture.
there.
Well,
The names,
wearing masks.
the usual suspects are there, so that's fine.
I know, I've-
You know, that,
I think you guys deserve a lot of credit. This is not an easy thing to do, and you have everybody and their brother, like me, coming in and making suggestions and making comments and things like that, and having the patience and the understanding to incorporate those things. I do appreciate that, so thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Andrea?
Yeah, I have to echo that, having lived through the frustration of working with the previous plan as a planning board member, and some of the mechanisms where it used to make me crazy. This is so much better. And I want to echo Michael's compliment about the work it took to both capture the history and what's real on the ground now, and to adjust our thinking to be in line with the Cape Cod Commission. It's huge, because it makes us able to talk as a neighborhood on Cape Cod about our challenges, and unifies the language that all of us in town government have to use when we're talking about investment or expenses or priorities. So bringing Orleans into that conversation by reframing this, generations will be grateful. I have a couple of different mechanical things that probably have more to do with having used the last comp plan and how you envision things going forward, and not in any order. So George, your presentation that you just gave us was about 16 minutes in terms of town meeting, what would be important, and I think if you can keep it to 10 and maybe not get in the weeds, and do some kind of announcement. Once the select board, hopefully we will support and place and support this. After that, release an announcement to the community through our normal communications that the plan is available for review well before town meeting, but as an announcement, because it's such an era-changing document. And then, because in that presentation, it's interesting to us because we live in the weeds. You may lose town voters by going into the depth of the mechanisms, but just have it there as a reference. I am very thrilled that there's maps and charts referencing policy. So it's not theoretical. You can see the tables or the maps on the ground. And in fact, it made me think when you said retail areas, South Orleans is limited because of its proximity to the watershed. So
For some duration until the public sewers get down there.
And public sewers will be down there?
Phase 4 includes that rural business district down there,
That is great.
yeah.
And not worth a note to the public, but just that's great for my education. Because when I saw that as an area of investment, and I thought, that's my bad, so thank you. And then, I guess my question is, in the use of the past plan, there were whole items like the commitment to build a community center, that in the dynamics, the select board in its wisdom said, we can't afford it, we're unwilling to do it, and just lopped it off in the last plan. How will we as a community, and we're having this, I have this concern with the housing plan, where we have boards and committees who may be responsible or forward action is in their purview. Are we gonna have an annual, and just sending it as a document, and very respectfully, George, you and the planning board are proficient in the comp plan. But I didn't feel like any of the other boards or committees that were asked to comment or update were ever engaged. And I think that's a mistake, and I throw that to you to think of a different structure to make sure that those boards and committees are aware that they're responsible for either policy or oversight or purview, or identify staff and have real conversations. Like, once a year, will you have a workshop or a summit that says, here are the parts of the plan that aren't working, or here's what we have achieved, and we're moving it to this part of the plan. Because I think residents would be very interested. And that would then tie into capital planning and investment, because we will have had a sense of, oh yeah, this is phase 4 of whatever the initiative is. You know, whether it's reusing or imagining how different ages use facilities, like a school or a building, any building. I just think the mechanism by which we keep the plan alive needs to change.
Well, and to address that, and that's an excellent point, going back to the milestones and measures of success piece of this, this is designed for an annual review. We're not going to wait 5 years or 10 years to go. Every year, we want to go through this, and what's the scorecard? How are we doing to the plan? How are we moving along? And in fact, the planning board, either in the spring or probably more like the fall town meeting, might take 5 minutes and say, here's where we are. Here's the update.
But I'm saying that we have a different level of participation now, that if the planning board convened an annual meeting, warned department chairs that, guys, this is coming on your radar, please discuss, and send us 2 representatives to a dedicated conversation. It gets back to what Debbie and I have been talking about for years. How do you engage the public? It could be an open meeting on you've already isolated huge challenges. Where are we with them?
Yep.
You know? And I think it's okay for the planning board, I mean, you could turf it to the select board, but this is the planning board's turf. And for you to invite the public in a workshop and say, you've got to keep the document alive somehow. And just sending a form to a committee and saying, what are you doing with it, is not enough anymore. It's not the way we operate. So I dare you to do it differently.
No, I think we should, and I agree completely with that, is that for us to have a regular update of the boards and committees and those, decision makers who are involved in the plan.
Yeah.
Where are we, what are you doing, all of that. Because we're the holders of the scorecard.
That's right. Well, and also when you go to the assigned, that part of the plan that assigns, because I have this concern with our housing plan and our economic development plans. Have those boards and committees, and again, not till it passes town meeting, but these other things, these other plans have been already either approved by the select board or adopted at town meeting, and those boards and committees have yet to be convened to understand that they are active partners. So we'll get a little bit into that dynamic, and I think you can solve it quicker than we have been able to at the select board level.
Fully agree.
Just kind of a question about that, because I think that that's a really important point that you've made, and it's something that I've kind of been thinking about as well. And in particular, I am the planning board representative to the Community Preservation Committee, and I think that maybe there are ways that I could do a better job of being like a planning board representative in that instance, and particularly with the comprehensive plan as we're reviewing applications, for example. So I'm only like singling this out because it's something that I have experience with, but it makes me think of like, that's a perfect example of an opportunity where a committee has resources that really deeply influence what gets funded in town that could come into more alignment with some of our comprehensive plan strategies, right?
And the synergy between, you know, you're calling out actions that are already on the housing plan or the select board goals or, you know, investment in infrastructure. You're already calling out the action, but is the board and committee that's responsible for that, energy and climate action, you know, what are the technologies? Oh, I'll give you a perfect example. We have a community that does not see the value of investing in the special energy code requirements, but part of our community says, why would we build anything less than passive standards? Because we want to own it, and passive standards are above the special code standards. So how do we bring those parties together to look at the value of short-term, long-term investment and cost at the same time? So, and again, we're not going to solve things, but at least have a place where the dialogue can happen. And the comp plan, the other thing I would absolutely hope you insist on is that when a board or a committee, including the select board, brings anything forward, we identify to the public how it ties in with the comp plan. Not just the housing plan or economic development plan, but how does it tie into the comp plan? Because my feeling from living through the past comp plan is it was divorced. I mean, it was active for many of us who were in government, but residents, it didn't exist. I mean, it didn't function, and I think you've done enough work to create a living, breathing document as a guideline that will help people feel connected to investment and priorities if they pass at a town meeting, which I hope they do. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Can I just add to
Michael,
that?
please.
Just add, I think that's a great point about a living document that Andrea made and Francesca. I was looking through this, of course, and we are, as you mentioned, in the plan, the select board's the goal-setting body of the town. And when things didn't line up with the select board goals, I kind of was like, huh, well, okay, that's fine. You know, it's just, it's there, it's close, it's not 100%. But I think, though, as you do the annual review, they will start to become more and more in line after a year or two. Now, I can't, as, you know, we're going to make decisions on our goals. There will be a whole new select board in a couple years, maybe.
We hope so.
Yeah, in that dais, and they're going to have their own goal-setting things that they're going to be addressing that is happening immediately in the town in, say, 2030 that we're not able to foresee right now. So there has to be that, by having an annual review and a slight adjustment, it's going to allow to, you know, I think it did get divorced from our goal setting to that because it was 2006. And it was a long
But
time
also,
ago.
we weren't compelled to understand or review it. It wasn't part of our practice.
Exactly, and I think that if you do that, I think you have it's a fresh start to kind of work together, and it will help make more educated, informed decisions when we go to
For
our
every board.
individual committees.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was, I just, of course, recently read it, as mentioned, and when you do your presentation, George, you know better than I do, but I would suggest using the actual document. You know what I mean? Because I was trying to follow your logic with the separate slides that actually aren't in the document. And I was like, did I miss that? Am I not seeing that?
Right.
The connection is like, it should be the table of contents you have, because that's what people are going to have to, if they don't understand that, you know? I think,
Yeah.
to Andrea's point, sending it out prior, I think people are gonna read it. I think this is a slam dunk. I don't think there should be any issues at town meeting, you might want to put a caveat in the wording of the warrant that you might have to make minor changes or grammatical things or like that, because there's going to be people, well, that word's wrong, I don't want to vote for that, that you can
Because of
change.
their
That-
issue,
That
yes.
population number's not what I think it is. You don't want to get into that kind of thing. You want to get into, it's such an amazing document. Let's not focus on the little things that could hook it up, and if you did put a little bit of language in there, so that would.
Michael, if you'd like to speak to it at town meeting, you're welcome and
I'm
positive.
happy to, if you want, but I think, there's no.
It will be a challenge to convey the message without getting too detailed, so we'll keep working on that.
Yeah, I was always focused on, this is the document you're presenting, stick with that, keep it more scoped.
Yes.
And then, but
Please go ahead.
Okay, to move back to what Andrew was saying, and I read it a long time ago, so maybe it's actually here, but in our governance piece, and then we're going to talk about metrics and how the document's going to function. This is a real opportunity to take significant steps in just proclaiming that these are the issues for every board and committee and anybody connected to the town of Orleans. Not that they can't change, but they can only change in relation to what is here and after having been justified. And what you're talking about too is there's, first of all, the investment by each committee that is working on the issues to clearly use the plan. And then the next step is the reporting out to the general community. So that things like the community center getting just X'd off just should never happen, because it's a goal. You don't just X it off because you can't do it. You say, we can't do it right now, but it's still in the list. You know what I mean? So for those people who are invested in that, maybe there are other ways of dealing with whatever the issue happens to be.
And so if you, from top level down, if you, the planning board, required all appointed or elected officials on every board and committee to be familiar with their section of the comp plan, and then we as the select board could back it up and say, if you're bringing an article or if you've got an initiative, in your presentation, please tie it to the relevant sections of the comp plan. And to Michael's point, we were divorced from it because we were never required to use it.
Right.
And until you agree on that's the language of our community, no one will speak it.
Yeah.
And to that point, I think that when we hopefully we approve this comp plan, we put it into motion, that it changes the planning board's charter in a way, because we have our normal business, but we haven't been a enforcer, monitor, updater of the plan as a matter of our regular agenda items. We've been doing our normal other business, but in this planning board and future planning boards, we need to, on a regular basis, address where are we, what's going on, getting that sort of input. Because frankly, on planning board agendas that I've seen, and even before me as chair, we haven't been saying, for example, in the 2006 plan, which is the last one, where are we on that? Except once a year where you
Yeah,
have to do the
George
update.
does it.
George does the
has been a
update.
faithful keeper in sending
Right.
it out to all the boards.
Just ask George.
But the board hasn't dealt with it
Right.
though, either, so your point is well taken.
Well, and again, the other question I have is, how do you keep the select board or the planning board or any board that's charged, that's why I'm interested about which board or committee is charged with what. The idea that anything can be lopped off, how are you going to make sure that, it may lose relevance, it may not be practical for now, but you've got to kind of get rid of that option to just remove something, and I don't know how you do that.
No, John, if I can just respond to that. What we've done differently in the action plan here is we now have, all boards and committees have a staff person assigned to them, right? So we've tried to, in the action plan, we've identified the staff person, your paid professional staff person responsible to move these things forward. So I think that to a great degree is a wholesale change from letting boards and committees kind of decide what their priorities are.
And then, George, when it's the short, medium, and long term, there's also which actions are they? I guess to have a fuller conversation, because to charge that board or committee with if it's a how would you go about it? And with the staff person involved, so that, again, if it becomes part of their meeting agendas and they've accepted it as a goal,
Right.
and it dovetails, like Michael's whole conversation with, select board goals lining up with planning board goals, how do you enmesh and assure progress if they're, oh, well, we've got to build a new fire station, and so everything else drops off the radar? It's complicated, so the mechanisms you have for, it's like an annual job review. How are we doing as a community moving this plan forward? And we have to hold ourselves accountable, which we've been very, very busy. We've been doing a lot of stuff.
But it changes our work, for
Yeah.
sure. Michael?
The only thing I would add, again, I do agree with the annual review and making people focus on this. Required, I want to just be careful, because at least from my point of view on the select board, I'm always challenged to be able to think outside the box
Yeah.
and continue to bring new ideas and continue to look at things a little differently. And I want to make sure that's, at least from my point of view, that I continue to do that and give that grace to people to be able to bring ideas that aren't necessarily already decided
Yeah.
For them. So that's the only thing. We don't want to conflict with the charter, with the select board's responsibilities of setting goals.
No, but ours are select board goals, not comp
Well,
plan
they're
goals.
the goals of the town. At least that's what the charter says.
Right, but we also have to have a comp plan.
But I just wanted to say one other thing, sorry, John, that the goals are pretty up here.
Yeah.
I could put every one of the select board.
Fit it in,
It was the
yeah.
first time I saw that, and I would have added other
Right.
of our goals to some of the specific actions. It's the specific actions that are gonna change.
Yeah, with your 3 categories, you could probably fit anything any of us is going to think about
Absolutely.
inside. But let's make it sure it's those 3 categories that we're holding to. And the problem is when you start delving deeper and
Yeah.
deeper into the specific action.
Right.
That becomes a different discussion.
An opportunity.
Yes.
Innovation, opportunity,
Yeah, that's
go with
always
resilience.
in flood.
I guess that's, there's always the hypothesis, right, that this is what we're going to do. And if you prove that that hypothesis is not the right one, right, that we thought we were going to always do
Right.
green, it turns out that red is the way to go. Well, but you've made an active decision that green is not it, and we have to go to red. And I think that's part of what we're saying, which is, you can have all these goals, but we just don't want you to sort of decide, oh, green's ridiculous, and we can't do anything. It's like, well, no, there was a reason you chose not to do it, and I think that exploration is important. I guess I also just think call it emotional or call it connectivity here, is that this gives us a real opportunity to figure out all the volunteers that are working on all these boards and commissions to really feel like they are part of something bigger than just their little piece. And how can we help celebrate that we're actually doing this all together, and how do we make this a collaborative conversation around, it's so cool that you're all part of this. How great, we can, and move it forward. So I think that gives us another way to really talk to all those volunteers about, you are part of a bigger thing, and congratulations for being part of it.
So I want to throw out an idea to that note, which is, we all get very excited about One Cape, those of us who are regular attendants every year. And maybe this comp plan check-in is our mini version of a One Cape. And it's a workshop that goes on with, because it fits in the comp plan. Here's the things on the ground, and here's the things that we're testing. And, to Michael's point, where's the out-of-the-box thinking, where's the opportunity for inventiveness? And to Mary's point, we're not doing this, we're going here
Right.
because of conditions on the ground.
And
Well,
gives the opportunity for interconnections and
Yeah,
thinking
invite
how you
every,
fit with
invite
that.
every stakeholder, board and committee.
So if,
Public.
my thought is here is that, as most companies do, they review their strategic plan, whatever you want to call it, our comp plan. They do it before they start setting financial plans.
That's right.
And so we start setting our financial plan in the municipal world in November. We do that, we go out to our different departments, get them to give their budget information between like mid-November to like mid-January. And we go through the making it work process that we're all in right now. But I would suggest that a meeting like this for us, our summit, or Orleans One Summit One, or One Summit, would be like in the September timeframe or October timeframe, so that we can say, okay, where are we in our comprehensive plan? Where are we in our strategies and all of that? Because if we say, okay, this makes sense to us, that then goes ahead, as in most companies, becomes the financial plan. Right? And how you're going to spend your money, where you're going to marshal your resources and all of that. So the timing of this thing would be like early fall.
John, but to be very cognizant of that, the town manager is the one who comes up with that budget. So I don't think it matters so much. That's a great idea, depending on how crazy we are with getting the fall town meeting together. But there's a difference between this comp plan, which is not a financial plan, and the actual town planning for town meetings that goes on. And I will leave that to you to.
Now, there's something for us to work out, but I think that the bottom line of this whole discussion is that the way we were managing the last plan, the 2006 plan, is not the way we're going to be managing this plan.
That would be great. The other thing I think it would force is the plans that we have that are lower level, the very specific 350 units of housing, the housing plan and economic development plan, and also the experimentation that we're thrilled that's going on with trying things that aren't, the lease to locals, some of the innovation that's going on. You would pull those conversations together in a way that they are still relatively silent.
Before we get into other comments from the board, because I know there's other comments that I think some folks want to make or some questions, I have an ask. So we are 32 on the article list for the proposed article list, and I was hoping that we could be Article 11 right after the consent agenda. So you do us first, because it sets the tone for everything else we're doing. Because if we get buried at 32, we're going to be at 10 o'clock or 10:30 at night. And it's, it's like, well, this comes along once every 20 years. And I would hope that we would be pushed up into the order here a little bit. Because I think we were like 32 or 23 or something like that.
We can absolutely raise that tomorrow. I know that the plan has been, the plan for town meeting is also fiduciary, dividing things by financial commitment and which pockets things are coming from. So I know that Kevin has a hard time shutting us up during these select board meetings, but we can absolutely raise it.
Yeah, I think that would be one thing.
Yeah.
And then
Really important, actually.
to go between now and that time, and I think I mentioned this to Kevin, I met briefly with him before this meeting. He couldn't be here today, but he, number one, liked the plan, and just had a couple of comments, which I addressed to him and I'll address to you now, is that some of the questions he had are really solved by our rewrite of the executive summary, which is we were hoping to have for today for all of us, and it's just not ready yet. But so between now and town meeting, the executive summary is being rewritten to be a little more punchy. We have the milestones and measures of success section. We have last edits coming up, and also the rebranding. So to use the new logo and so forth, that'll be
And
incorporated into this.
the only other edit I had that was a true edit was the status of Orleans as a non-affordable town, not an affordable town, in the opening of it.
I don't know that we say anything that Orleans is affordable. We don't say that.
Well, it's the verb tense of keeping Orleans affordable, but it's not. So that's like the other elephant in the room with electrification.
Don't say we're
Okay.
affordable.
It might be page 7.
I'll entertain other comments from the board for members from the select board. Lynn, do you have anything there? Nope, no questions. Anybody else? Do you have any more questions for us at this point? Or
No,
comments?
not at this point, no.
Great, okay. Well, then we thank you for your time and coming to see us, and we've had quite a number of public engagement meetings in the fall. We had a public hearing the last time around, and one thing that we have done in the last 3.5 years as a board is listen. And we made it a big point at the beginning of this process to listen to what the town wants to see, what their vision of the future is going to be. Fortunately, in all of this, there's a lot of alignment. There's not a lot of outliers in all of this. So it was, from that perspective, a little bit of an easier project to pull all of this together. But I think we have a product here that is, with a couple of the edits to go here, ready for town meeting.
Mr. Chair, can I just observe that as I was reading it and getting very sad about some of the figures or challenged by what I was reading, the inclusion of local art and photographs, and it's a beautiful plan.
Thank you.
It's a
And
very beautiful.
we have to, this is Debbie. Debbie did that
Of course.
for us. Yeah. That's a real icing on the cake. But
Yeah, it's great.
as I said to Kevin before the meeting, and I truly mean this, is it didn't start out this way, but it became this. It's sort of a love letter to Orleans, because it's to feel what Orleans really feels like, to represent the community as it is and wants to be. And it is a document that's not only informative and a guidance document, but also something that is visually reflective of the town.
That's how you should introduce it at town meeting.
Yeah, that was really
You
good.
just nailed that. Whether George would be comfortable saying that is a different question. So you may not have to say it.
George and I will do the dog and pony. Well, I'll get up and do the planning board report, and then George will do the slides. But we already, speaking of slides, we already talked before even this meeting of how we would trim it down to make it tighter, because we're going to have to for town meeting. We can't go as long as we did today, so. If there are no other questions or comments,
Yeah, I would just
Please,
think, are
Michael.
you going to be doing some, before town meeting, you'll be doing some workshops or public engagement with this?
we didn't, we did that in the fall, and we had our public hearing last time. So at this moment, we have nothing scheduled between now and town meeting.
I would suggest, once you have the edits done and you guys feel like it's ready, at least offer it to the public. I mean, it might be nice to sit and talk with,
The draft has been offered to the public since last October in two forms. And I made the note already from an earlier discussion today that as soon as we have our finished product, that not only will that go up online, but we'll get with Amanda to make sure that there's a public relations piece out there.
A video.
something,
Just
yes.
do a video if you,
I mean, yeah, I don't know, I still think you could benefit from having not a public hearing, I don't know what you would call it, a workshop, but you'll know the questions that people come to and that are going to come to the floor of town meetings. So you'll have a chance then for a week or two to be able to figure those questions and how you might want to address them, if there are any. I'm just saying, that's what I would do. You've got a great product to show, and it's a big product. It's 242 pages. So you're going to, most people don't pay attention to the things that are on the warrant, as we know, until the day of or the couple days before. So if they're trying to read it then and digest everything, there's going to be too much. But that's just a suggestion.
Actually, I have a question. I thought it was great that the town staff organized all those open meet houses and, pre-town meeting. If they're going to do that again, it would at least be a good time to have a few hard copies. Did people come? I didn't go, so I don't know. Did people come? If they did come, if there were copies of the report there, or we can maybe take turns or participating and try to answer questions if people have them. But at least try that, include this in the other efforts that are being done to talk about the issues at town meeting. Because I think, I don't know, we've had so many public meetings now, not that I'm all for that, but, they're not listening anymore. They're not coming. Last time we had nobody come.
Yeah, Elizabeth did that for the zoning.
Yeah.
Like she had little meet and greets or whatever you want to call it. So I'm not sure if that would sort of, because I think we've had, Citizens Forum, we did a presentation on it months ago. And as we said, we've done a couple of public hearings. Of course, the one in December we had 2 people come. But that was not a great night either. But, I certainly can see the advantage of, at least if George, you can be available to be part of that open house. then that gives people a chance to come and do it as a one-on-one, as opposed to feeling like they had to sit through the other thing. The other thing is, we could also make, when we send it out, we can also say, here is, I mean, we've recorded so many of your presentations, George. We'd be able to, we could do one clip, which is, here's the PowerPoint presentation, and that way,
Yeah, that's a great
we
idea.
don't have to do it again. But it's a little more, and they can listen to the 16 minutes if that's really what they wanted to do. So I think that would give somebody, again, another opportunity if they finally said, okay, I guess I should pay attention. So that's another option.
I mean, you will be having meetings before, right? Just your normal meetings. And you
Correct.
tack it on the end, and if nobody shows, you're done.
Well, between now and town meeting, we have 2 more meetings.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the second one. I mean, you know what I mean? You can put it on your agenda as after, people can come for a workshop. Nobody shows up, you end your meeting.
And one of the issues for us right now is we don't know exactly what day we're getting the final version. And until we know that, it's hard to schedule anything.
That's true.
So, but it's coming. It's almost like a couple of weeks, something like that, George.
Something like that, yes.
Well, and I appreciate your comments, and thank you again for your input and your time with us today. It was very, very helpful. And we want to move on then we have a couple of more planning board items, and thank you very much.
Thank
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you both.
Next item on the agenda is our approval of our last meeting's minutes from March 10th. And I will take a motion to approve,
So moved.
and a second.
A second?
Great. Any discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call because we have Lynn on Zoom. We'll start with Lynn.
Yes.
Mary?
Mary Wright, aye.
Mariah? Debbie?
Yes.
John Osman, aye. So minutes are approved. George, future agenda items.
Yeah, at your next meeting in April, I'd like to have Elizabeth come in and talk about zoning concepts and the process. We're going to get to a fall town meeting with some cleanups or modernization of the bylaw. We need to make you aware of the things that we're thinking about, get your ideas so we can work on it throughout the summer. We will also potentially talk about a growth incentive zone change for the downtown of Orleans, because we found there's some dampening effect in housing when the specter of the Cape Cod Commission review of anything of 30 units or more weighs on a project, and it just turns people away, and we wind up with a bunch of 29s. So we want to talk about that too. So that'll come up in April. We're just going to give you kind of a briefing of where we're at. That housing typologies that goes along with the overlay district will be worked on in the summer. I think we have 2 check-ins with the planning board on that, so you'll see the outcome of that, as well as a review of the design guidelines.
Okay. Will we, going back to the comments that were made by members of the select board, will we, do you think, by our next meeting, which is the 14th? April,
Was it April 14th?
yeah,
Good. I was-
April 14th and 28th. April 14th, will we be in a position to see the final version of the comp plan?
I don't think so, John. Just to be realistic with you. So we've got a set of edits that we're going to send back to Ty and Bond, and hopefully we can get those. And that includes the executive summary piece that I'm sure the board, you had a lot of input on. I'm sure you want to see the final product. I'll try to get that for the 14th. But then, once all the edits are done from Ty and Bond, we're sending it to the branding expert through Amanda Converse's office, and then they have to take the time to convert it into the final plan. And depending on how much is going on with that person, we may or may not have the final perfect plan until right before town meeting. I'm comfortable that if the text is complete and we haven't incorporated all the branding changes, the plan is the plan, it still goes forward. So I'm not worried about that.
Well, could we have, to me, there's a lot of small edits in here. The big piece is having the executive summary. If we can have that done, forget about the branding for a minute, have that done, that can be up online for us to tell the town that the final version of this is up online. Forget about logos, because we can always add those later. The comment about having a workshop or having another comment session, maybe for our second meeting in April,
Right.
is a possibility.
And if we have that final executive summary, and maybe I can contact the newspapers to try to get an article on that. They have a lot of news this time of year, so that, it's hard to get their attention. But maybe we can get a little article on the comp plan, what it contains, and encourage people to participate in some way ahead of time
Get a
or
little
ask
buzz,
questions.
get a little buzz started for it.
And I'm glad to hold specific office hours on the comp plan and what it contains, a couple times prior.
Sounds good.
John, I just have
Yes, yes.
questions about the edits. First, when you're talking about the executive summary, we're also talking about the changes to the formatting that we talked about, like of removing pages
Yeah,
and,
yes.
okay.
Right.
I just want to make sure I wasn't going crazy.
Yeah, so you take 3 pages out, and everything,
Move things around and
follows,
the
yeah.
vision statement and blah, blah. Okay, perfect. And then, I think the only thing that came up, like in terms of the other little edits and the comments from the select board was, and I was looking at what's currently in the plan in terms of like where we talk about governance. And I'm just wondering whether we want to have a discussion or potentially incorporate some of their comments into that governance section, because we don't really address like the comprehensive plan as a governance tool itself in that section, or like the role of boards and committees in implementing
I'd
the
be
plan.
afraid of stepping into a really long discussion with that. Sorry.
Well, I think what you're talking about is implementation. So
Yeah.
we were talking earlier about how the use of the comp plan changes the board work, changes what we do, because we become the gatekeeper for this thing in a way.
Right.
I don't know that we need to put in the execution plan of the comp plan in the comp plan itself necessarily. That's up
Okay.
to us as a board, how we want to do that. And the suggestions are well taken to make this thing so it is more alive than the last one was. Because
Right.
it wasn't, no reflection on anybody, but it wasn't managed like you would manage a plan in like a company.
Right.
You would live with that thing, and you would, this is why we're doing this, and this is what the products look like, and here's why we're selling them, and all the reasons why you exist. We haven't really done that with previous plans. The difference is, I think that we're all committed to implementation of this thing, and part of that is holding everybody accountable.
Right.
And we have to figure out how to do that, but that piece,
Doesn't need to.
we talked about that, part of that being in the measures of success section of the plan, which really won't be ready for the town meeting. But it's something certainly is the bolt-on that goes in the back, and that may be that part of it, the last piece that we add on.
And would that need to be, those kinds of like measures, I think this is more like for my own understanding of the use of the plan, and it was kind of like the question that I was trying to get at, which is like, so the plan goes to town meeting essentially like as it is, where we're not talking in the plan about how it gets executed or like the roles of boards and committees necessarily in the execution. Then we say like we're gonna have these like metrics and measurements, maybe there's some other kind of like implementation plan that we come up with. Whether or not that implementation plan like has to go through town meeting to get approved, like how do the boards and committees formally like accept or acknowledge that like this is part of their responsibility? Like how does that get,
Town meeting accepts the plan,
okay,
and they're theoretically obligated to
that's
follow
what
it.
okay,
So
Okay.
the authority is town meeting.
okay,
And the authority, if they say, yeah, we want this and we vote to accept it, we can sit as a regulatory board and say, well, the plan says this, you have to do this.
Okay.
And actually, when you fold out the action plans, it calls out the different
right, like staff
responsible
support.
entities for,
Yeah.
it's in the plan.
Right,
So, but we, as a board, have not been holding other boards accountable.
okay,
Or
and
other entities accountable.
the process by which we do that doesn't need to be approved by the
No,
town?
I don't
Okay,
think
No, that's outside.
okay,
But don't we need to say somewhere that that's the intention? That there's, like, okay, I'm gonna go back to the very purpose of the plan. I thought it was very specific. There's no general statement on it's page 18. It says framework for zoning regulations and measures to manage growth. Well, it's way more than that, right? And supporting housing and supporting an economic future. And this is, these are purposes that are directly tied to the goal, the actual goals that we've said. But it doesn't say, could we not craft a simple statement that this plan is to be, central to the work of all the committees and boards as they, tackle these issues and goals. And the planning board, will develop the processes and procedures or something like that, I don't know.
And maybe
Is there any place to put just a simple statement where we can claim that as something that we have to work on? Because it's not really in here.
maybe it folds under the statement about it being a living document.
Yeah.
Like, the plan, might be evolving, but how we use it, like, we
Right,
need to,
yeah,
all these boards and committees need to be the front door to the plan.
right.
Well, I think how we use it, we have to be careful about what's called project creep.
Yeah.
And when we start going out of the framework of what the plan really is about, you start getting into areas of specific execution. And the other effort going on in at least the town departments right now is they're getting strategic plans built for them that recognize and actually incorporate the action plans from the comp plan into their own strategic plans, plus other things that they've come up with as well. So from town department point of views, they have an execution plan that connects into this. As far as boards and committees are concerned, I don't know that we necessarily want to put a mechanism in here that says, and here's how we're going to administrate you so that you do what the plan says. I don't think that we have to do that. I think that's something that we have to evolve with the select board. Because if they want us to be the gatekeeper of this, we're going to say, here's how we want to do it. Andrea already came up with some suggestions, like having our once-a-year summit, which is not a bad idea, and do it that way, so that there is an accountability piece, people understand what's going on, and the life keeps going in this document. So,
Lynn has her.
I guess one thing I would say though, John, isn't the plan defined within the charter? I mean, we have to do this because of the charter, right? So it must be more specific. I haven't read that long.
actually, more than that, I think there's a state requirement that we do
Right,
it.
so I mean, I think some of this idea of, do you have to do this? I think they're supposed to be doing it. Now, again, if we haven't enforced it and we haven't really pressured it and we haven't measured it, then that's on us. I don't think that it's unclear enough, so that we have to be very specific within the document itself. That's my thought, but I know Lynn has her hand up.
Lynn, please.
Yeah, was just going to say, I thought Francesca had a good point that we don't want to say, have an annual, meeting where all the board chairs come together. That's too specific. I get that, John. You're definitely right. But couldn't we say someplace in the governance section that, this plan is, it should serve as a way to knit together, the actions of various boards and committees and guide capital investments for the future. I mean, just say something like that to say, this isn't just something that, it's out there and we can use it or not. I mean, it's a template to knit together the actions of our various boards and committees. Something like that?
I think, yeah, I think we touch on, and it's a very good point. I think that we touch on this in purpose of the plan, but if we don't say it, we have to say it in some way that we say this is a guidance document, but we don't necessarily say it's designed to knit together and, to use your term, knit together, but to align purposes of other activities that happen in town, boards and committees and all of that. I don't know that we use that term alignment per se. I don't know, that's a point, because I don't think in the governance section, we actually call out the existence of the comp plan.
No.
No.
You know, I think it's just important to remember that the plan is only a guide. If it's a good guide, it'll get used. If we're diligent about wanting a good community, we'll follow the things that we have heard and accumulated. But it is only a guide. It could be and has been ignored by other communities.
One point I want to make before we go to adjournment is that, first of all, if we get ourselves moved up in the schedule and get a little more attention to ourselves rather than being buried later on, there may be, hopefully there will be, some comments from the floor about things that we haven't even thought about yet, or more emphasis on some of the things we've discussed that might come up. And we can say from the town meeting that we make some final adjustments or tweaks or something like that from items that come up. So by us not having the comp plan with all these comments in it, doesn't preclude us from adding them later. So, you know, we don't draw a line and say the comp plan is over on the day before town meeting. I think there's also the opportunity over the summer for final adjustments and that sort of thing.
I just found the paragraph we could fit something in. Objectives under governance, number 5 is create mechanisms that provide opportunities for collaboration and consensus building among boards, committees, and the general public.
That's sort of addressing a little bit of
Be a
that.
place where we could
Yeah. It's,
add
it's,
just something about, create mechanisms that review the,
and align efforts and all of that.
that'll review the status of success in addressing the goals and align, that's really what we're talking about. And then create and provide opportunities. That's open-ended. We can figure out what those opportunities should or could be.
Or it's almost, at the end of that sentence, create mechanism, blah, 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 as ways to implement this plan. I mean, we can sort of just
Right.
Yeah,
make that
That's
as,
an easy edit.
good edit.
right, and I think that way we're saying, okay, we're talking about all getting together, holding hands, singing Kumbaya and arguing, but it's all in the service
Right.
of making this plan.
There you go.
There's an easy edit.
Simple.
Very good. Thank you.
Happy.
With all of,
It won't even take up more than a line.
with all of that.
Won't change the pagination at all.
145.
With all, well, good. With all of that, and we've run out of
We've got
agenda
our-
items,
we've got our
unless there's
reference.
any other discussion from the board, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I need a second,
Second,
and we'll take a roll call vote. We'll start with Lynn,
Yes?
Mary,
Mary Wright, aye.
Mariah? Debbie?
aye.
John Osman, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all.